everyone, welcome back. So yesterday we were reading our book The Monster in the Lake, and we've discovered Lizzie, the lesser Loch Ness monster, and we found out all about her problems with the mermaids who've been pinching and biting and peeing in her lake. So we're on to the second half of this chapter, chapter number 6. They walked back to the library, all feeling glum. Faith explained all about water portals, and Josh was scribbling notes as he walked, which meant he bumped into a lamppost halfway back. So, water portals connect lakes and streams and other bits of water all over the world together using magic. All water is connected, and you could have a portal from anywhere to anywhere in theory, but someone has to open them. If they were open all the time, you'd end up with magical creatures in swimming pools or in your bath, and that would be freaky. When Salt nearly woke Draca, that opened the water portal here to the one where Lizzie is from. Faith says it should close naturally in a day or so. They gathered in the scruffy, cosy common room in the bookwood beneath the library. Alita had Dogan on her lap. He was trembling and had snuggled into her like a baby. "We can't leave him here," said Alita. "I'm afraid you're right. He'll only get sicker while Lizzie is here," said Faith. She came over and knelt next to Dogon, giving him a stroke. Her unstable, sad, wild magic is really bad for him. "Oh no," said Alita. "Poor Dogon. I think we should take him away from here until we can persuade Lizzie to leave," said Faith. "Can't we just cheer her up?" suggested Kit. Faith shook her head. "I'm afraid nothing will cheer her up except being allowed home again. Magical creatures can be very attached to the places they come from. They're not very adaptable. That's what happens when you're millions of years old." "But if we take Dogon away, won't it be bad if we take him away from the dragon?" asked Alita. "Isn't that his source of magic?" "Not if away for too long," said Faith. "He's got enough dragon magic in him to keep him healthy and happy for at least a week away from Draca." "Wait, a week?" said Josh, looking alarmed. "Where are we going? What will I tell my mum? I'm supposed to be back in time for dinner at 6 tonight. In 8 hours' time. If I'm away a second longer, my mum will flip. My dad will backflip." "Easy, no one's going away for a week," said Faith. "I'm hoping we can get this all wrapped up long before your families even start worrying about where you are." "My ma worries about me when I'm with her," said Alita with a half smile. "But as long as we're back for dinner, she'll keep her worrying to her normal voice, her not shouting voice." "Where are we going?" asked Kit, whose own parents probably wouldn't notice if she was several days late for dinner. "Well, I was thinking we should go to Scotland to investigate the loch. How does that sound?" asked Faith. Kit thought it sounded excellent. "I've never been to Scotland," she said. "You'll like it. It's very outdoors," said Faith with a smile. "How will we get there?" asked Alita. "I don't think my parents would let me take a train on my own, even with you, Faith," she added apologetically. "And wouldn't it be expensive?" "We won't be going by train. We're going by book," said Faith. "A portal book?" asked Kit excitedly. These were the special books used by wizards to travel between libraries. Each book took you through a different landscape on your way, depending on what the book was about. Some of them were safer to cross than others. "So what library will we be going to?" asked Alita, focusing on entirely the wrong part of the journey, as far as Kit was concerned. "Ivenglaw," said Faith. "It's near the loch where the mermaids live. Loch Lockie." Are there libraries in lochs, like in the middle of nowhere?" asked Josh, wide-eyed. "Sort of," said Faith. "You'll see when we get there." "Can we take Dogon to Scotland with us?" asked Alita. She hugged the furry little dragon creature tightly. "Yes, definitely," said Faith. "He should start feeling better as soon as he's away from Lizzie." She got up and went to a cupboard underneath the sink. "I think his carrying case should be under here. Usually I'd let him fly, but the poor thing can barely flap right now." She pulled out a bottle of some kind of glowing liquid. A pair of high-heeled shoes, a tin of paint with a label reading Hex-Resistant Pixie House Paint, and a small statue of an octopus with what looked like diamonds for eyes, until she found what she was looking for. "Bring him over here." Alita carried Dogon over and put him in the carrying case, which was bright red and hovered just above the ground. "I could do with one of those for my school book," said Josh, impressed. "How does it work?" "A fairly simple levitation spell, kept going by the crystals in the base of the case," said Faith. "The crystals act like batteries for magic, you see." "Cool," said Josh, scribbling notes in his little book. Alita gently encouraged Dogon inside the case. He made a grumpy sound, but was too tired to resist. "Right, let's get him out of here," said Faith. "I'll just call ahead to let the librarian know that we're coming. Would you get a portal book? Invagloy has all the same ones apart from us, the same ones as us, apart from dangerous animals." "Good," said Josh. "That one is terrifying." Kit went to the shelf where the portal book sat and unlocked it with the spell Faith had taught her. She picked one she hadn't used before, called Inside a Computer. It was a large book with bright pictures and flaps to lift. When Faith came back from calling the Invagloy librarian, they were ready to go. Kit started reading the book. "Computers are like libraries, but instead of books, they store information using zeros and ones." They found themselves inside the book. It wasn't like some of the other portal books where you walked through a realistic landscape. In here, lines of light surrounded them, forming sort of a cage. Beeping sounds filled the air. Kit saw some moving platforms ahead and old-fashioned robots bustling around looking busy. "Is this what a computer looks like inside?" asked Alita doubtfully. "No, this is how Kit imagines it would look," said Faith. "It looks like a computer game," said Josh. "Well, that's what you'd find inside any good computer," said Kit. "Which way do we go?" she asked Faith. Faith pointed to the moving platforms. "That way. We'll have to jump a bit. Dogon's case will just float behind us." They started to make their way through the book, hopping from platform to platform. It wasn't too hard. In fact, Kit loved it. She made a mental note to use this book as often as possible when they travelled between libraries. It was safer than the Dangerous Animals portal book, but a lot more fun than the garden one. When they got to the end of the moving platforms, they walked through a shining door made from light. The next page of the book was a room with green walls and a green floor, all covered in silver metal wires. "It's a circuit board," said Josh. The next room was full of ancient computers covered in dust. "This is the page about the history of computing," said Faith. "Oh, I think my nan has one like that," said Kit, pointing to a big box-like computer. One of the machines didn't even look like a computer. It had a hand crank on one side and lots of what looked like metal cogs. "Oh, wow! A difference engine," said Josh. "It's an early version of a computer from hundreds of years ago." "Sometimes I wonder if there's anything you don't know," said Kit. "I don't know the rules of baseball," said Josh. After a moment's thought, "I should probably learn those soon as well." The next room was full of robots. Some were just arms building and painting a car. Kit could smell the fresh paint. It made her feel giddy. Another was playing football with itself. "This one looks almost human," said Kit, marvelling at a robot with skin that looked surprisingly realistic. "Thank you," said the robot. It was dressed as a butler and had a moustache. "How may I be of service?" "Can I have some toast?" asked Kit. The robot pressed its stomach and out popped hot, buttered toast. Kit had to be dragged out of that room, clutching 2 wedges of perfectly browned bread. "Come on," said Faith. "Remember what happens if you stay in one spot in a portal book?" Kit did remember. You risk going into a trance, and if you stay too long, you might not be quite right once you return to the real world. "What happens if you..." Die in a portal book? Asked Kit, about to take a bite of her toast. It's best to avoid it, said Faith. She pointed at Kit's toast. And I wouldn't eat that either. Kit dropped the toast hastily. As it hit the ground, it disappeared into a cloud of square pixels. Kit gulped. I bet eating that would have given you indigestion, said Josh, watching the toast pixels as they floated away. After a few more pages, they reached the end of the book. A vast wall of screens, flashing images showing people going about their business, including one group of men who Kit thought were almost definitely robbing a bank. Don't worry, it's not real, said Faith, all part of the book. Kit could never get over how real portal books felt when you were in them. What's the library called? Where we're going? Asked Alita. This is the end of the book, right? Yes, it's a really short book, said Josh sadly. The library's called Invergloy, said Faith. Invergloy, huss, said Kit. They appeared inside what seemed to be a metal container about the size of Kit's living room at home. A strip light glared down on them from the ceiling. The walls of the box were lined with books, and there was a window at one end, through which Kit could see seats. Oh, we're inside a lorry, said Kit, making sense of the space at last. It's a mobile library, said Faith. There was a clanging sound. Doors opened, and a natural stream of light streamed in through the back of the van. The sky outside was gloomy. A man was looking up at Kit suspiciously. What are you doing in there? He had a big black beard and curly black hair, pale white skin and very arched eyebrows. His clothes were dark and scruffy, and he wore shorts and big walking boots. When he saw Faith, his expression changed, and he gave a huge welcoming grin. Ah, it's you! I didn't know you'd be here so soon. Hello, Duncan, said Faith. She held up Dogon's carrying case. We were in a hurry. We had to get this little one clear of... Well, I'll tell you all. I'll tell you all about that later. Who are the Bairns? He peered into the van. I'm Kit, said Kit. This is Josh and Alita. Thanks for letting us come through your library? Sure. Well, come on out. Hot day like this, you'll be baking in that van. Duncan gestured out at the rolling moorland behind him. It's not hot, said Josh. He peered out of the van at the grey sky. He shivered ever so slightly in his t-shirt. Around here, this is beach weather, said Duncan. He held out his hand and helped the children down. Welcome to Invergloy Mobile Library. Kit looked around. They were standing on a sloping, wide-open landscape, covered in scrubby plants and dotted with rocks. The lorry was parked on a dirt road. The air smelled fresh. Who uses this library? Asked Kit. She couldn't spot anything but grass and little purple plants. Can't see anything around. I drive around all the local villages so people can borrow books. Plus, I run a festival every summer. People come from all around to listen to stories. But I was just on my way home just now. I only parked up to collect some supplies. He gestured to a pile of freshly picked plants. Are they for spells? Asked Josh, looking excited. Well, that one is, and that one, said Duncan, pointing to a couple of different shrubs. But that one over there is for my lunch. Wild rosemary grows around here. Sounds delicious, said Faith. When we've done what we came to do, perhaps you can make us some food. She grinned, looking to Kit and the others. Duncan's an excellent cook. And I'm an all right wizard, added Duncan. He waggled his finger. Well, I'm no Faith, but... Faith didn't contradict him. So, how can I help you? Asked Duncan. You mentioned Loch Lockie in your message. Message? Kit had a thought. Can you get a mobile signal out here? Duncan shook his head. Nope, no signal out here at all. But we wizards don't need phones to send messages, do we? No. Faith pulled a small globe-sized shape stone out of her pocket, about the size of a golf ball. It was a milky, swirling colour, as if someone had poured white paint into water. It seemed to be glowing from within, giving off pulses of light, as if it was alive. "Wow! What's that?" asked Kit. "Wizards call it a dirda, but most people would probably call it a crystal ball," said Faith. "Can it see the future?" asked Josh. "Not unless the future is you're about to have a cup of tea that you've just asked a wizard friend to put on for you when you arrive," said Duncan. "It's basically just a wizard phone." Josh looked a little disappointed. "On the plus side, it has a great reception, absolutely everywhere, and you never need to top up the credit," said Faith. She held out the globe for them all to take a look. Kit took it in her hands, and it vibrated ever so slightly, making her skin tingle. She wondered if she'd ever get one of her own. "Can you point us in the direction of the loch, Duncan?" continued Faith. "Maybe give us an introduction to the mermaids." "Yes to directions, it's that way." He pointed to the path behind his lorry. "But I can't introduce you, sorry. I'm not going near those mermaids again in a hurry. They spat at me last time I went by and threw a rock at my head." "They sound like fun," said Faith, pursing her lips. "They weren't always like that. They've always been very private people and a bit grumpy, but they were never aggressive before. And they always lived in peace with the other loch creatures. I don't know what's got into them." He shook his head. "But I went fishing down by the loch the other day. I'd asked their permission the week before, and they'd been fine. And suddenly," he shrugged, "well, I won't be going back in a hurry." Kit thought these mermaids sounded much more interesting than the drippy creatures she'd read about in the fairy tales, who seemed to spend their time pining after princes and sitting on rocks brushing their hair. "Let's go meet them," said Kit. "Agreed," said Faith, "but I think we should leave Dogon with Duncan, if you don't mind, just in case he bothers the mermaids even more. We don't want him weeing at the edge of their lake and starting something." "No bother," said Duncan. "I love dogs." He peered into the carrying case and raised an eyebrow. "Or dragons? Anyhow, I love both." "Good," said Alita, "because Dogon is both." "What does he eat?" "Everything," said Alita, "except mushrooms. He hates those." "I'll take him back to my place for some food," said Duncan. Duncan gave a wave and hopped into the cab of the lorry, gently laying Dogon's carry case down on the seat. They set off walking towards the loch. And that's the end of the chapter. And next time's chapter is chapter 7, Morag, the mermaid. And I look forward to seeing you all then.